This podcast was brought to you by the good people at Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial right now at audibletrial.com/nothingbutstatic. Hello and welcome to Stephen University. This week, of course, we're discussing The Trial, an episode in which a trial happens for Lars for being a coward. Right, Chris?
Yeah, that was a lie, wasn't it, Dan?
Because you sussed out.
Fool me once. You can't fool me twice, meat band guy. For those that don't know what that's a reference to, check out Tom Stade's set from Michael McIntyre's Comedy Roadshow.
So specific.
One of the finest pieces of stand-up.
Can I quickly make a small apology and a correction from last week, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
I double-checked it. I got my YouTubers mixed up.
Oh, shit.
So it wasn't Awestruck Vox from the Roundtable that wasn't a fan of Topaz. It was Uncivilized Elk, who, also is quite a popular subscriber, YouTuber for Steven Universe. But to give you the mix-up, though, how I did this, I don't know. The Roundtable has 401,000 subscribers, nearly 500,000, and Uncivilized Elk has 70,000, which is incredible, especially considering we have 800. But I somehow mixed that. I think I watched a few of their videos the other day close to each other, because it was like sit up next, sort of suggested relevant topic videos, and at some point the messages of the videos sort of merged a bit in my brain, even though they're coming from different people. And the phrasing that he used about Topaz was that it was rushed and unbelievable. So he felt it was so quick that it was it sort of defied believability. To give him specific credit, and I think our counter argument from last week covers that, which is that we don't know what the development of that character was prior to this, so it doesn't come across rushed to me. And in fact, we found 1,001 reasons why we thought it worked, but that's fine. We can disagree. That's okay. Yeah. He's also a very good YouTuber, by the way, on Civilized Elk. Some really interesting videos on his channel, also.
Nice.
Cool.
Should I recap the trial?
Yes, please.
Daniel?
Sorry, I just wanted to do that right up top because.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's unfortunate for me to have attributed an opinion to a YouTuber that didn't deserve that to be done.
Much like you did to Nadia when you watched this bomb, you lied.
Is the running theme of this gonna be you calling that out every single episode? Are you gonna try and shoehorn that in every episode?
Possibly, yeah.
Just to make sure that you're covering as much of the content as possible with that message, so that it will eventually reach her.
No, not at all. I would hate for you to get into trouble. And also I like Nadia. I wouldn't want her to feel the hurt that would come with that.
You know what? I think what we're gonna have to do is after this, after we've recorded these episodes, I'll have to come clean and then get and report back her reaction.
No, I think the only way to do that, because I don't think she's going to be that fussed. I think the only
no,
if
she's
you're going to do that,
this is a bigger deal to you and I than it is to her. TV betrayal matters to us. She doesn't give a shit.
If you're going to do that, bearing in mind that on Nothing But Static, I had to phone McVitie's and ask what came first, mini cheddars or cheddars. I think you probably need to record it if you're going to do that, don't you?
No, because I think first of all, she wouldn't do that anyway.
Well, here's the thing, Dan. I don't necessarily want to hear her reaction. I want to hear you tell her.
So why would I bother recording it?
Because I don't care. Because the argument not to record it is that that's unfair to Nadia, which I completely get. She's never signed up to be a part of this and to be on one of these episodes, so why should she be, especially if she doesn't know she's being recorded? That's fine. But I quite want to hear you being like, but by the way, because you would think, just tell her, it'll be no big deal. And then I guarantee you, the moment you went to tell her, you'd turn into a 12-year-old child who's just been caught masturbating. Like, you'd be like, I mean,
I don't know. I'll be just like, it came up on the podcast. Chris has called me out, so I'm coming clean. Watched that episode before you did. Soz.
Okay. So you just proved my point. That's what it is in your head. When you come to say that, Yeah, so this came up on the podcast. Yeah, I think it's a big deal, but Chris seemed to think it was a big deal. He brought it up all the time.
No, because the second I do all that, then it becomes a big deal.
I think you'd over-explain it, Dan.
I don't think I would.
Anyway, should we talk the trial?
Let's talk the trial, and I will, at some point, not likely in these 4 episodes for the Wanted arc, but at some point in the future, I will come clean and I will report back how it went and whether you were right or not. And I will be fully honest if that's how it ends up going, because
no, I think she's not going to be bothered, and I doubt you're gonna crumble when telling her. But still,
no, because it's not that big a deal. Because I know full well she doesn't care. That's the thing. I don't even know why I bothered. Like,
are you? I mean, then are you just lying for yourself, Dan?
I think I was. I think I just felt bad that I'd done it, and therefore kept
I think
it,
the main purpose of these podcasts for me is for you to be on trial. But Stephen's on trial.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so Stephen's on trial. Lawyer appears.
Zircon?
Kind of takes... Huh?
Zircon. It's a Zircon.
Zircon.
Because because usually when a new gem is introduced, about halfway through your description, you go, "What's his name again?" So I thought I'd supply it up front this week.
I'm not gonna use her name for a specific purpose, which we'll get to. Okay. So Stephen's on trial.
Well, it's Amy Sedaris. I was calling this gem Amy Sedaris for a long time because that's who voices it. So such a distinct voice. It's like, how could I not?
Fair play. So they start doing the trial, and Stephen is doing a really bad job. He keeps saying that he definitely did it. Throughout the trial, they bring in Lars. They also bring in the diamond ruby with her eye. What's that? What, eye?
He calls it eyeball.
Eyeball. Bring in Eyeball. Eyeball confirms that it is Rose. Yellow Diamond is just pretty keen to execute. Blue Diamond wants to understand what happened. Stephen says that he probably did this, probably did that, because obviously he doesn't really know.
Mm-hmm.
His lawyer takes him back and kind of says, "What's going on?" He says that he doesn't know. She says, "Of course you don't know, it doesn't make sense," and then gives a big long speech as to why it doesn't make sense, pointing out that Rose was a known villain of Pink Diamond, so how could she possibly have got that close? And there's sort of inconsistencies. She says this must have been some kind of cover-up involving one of you, points to Blue and Yellow Diamond.
Well, she says someone with power and authority, someone like you. She doesn't specifically say it was one of you. She says someone like you, like saying someone with power like a diamond.
This makes Yellow Diamond really mad. She poofs the lawyers. She starts attacking shit. Blue Diamond kind of says, "No, what are you doing?" And Stephen and Lars use that as a chance to escape. And they're now in this what are they called?
Palanquin?
Paradigms? Palanquins. They're in Blue Diamonds. They're in Blue Diamonds.
I'm in no state to tell you how to pronounce Palanquin because I got it wrong so many times in a previous episode, and everyone was like, "Hey, Dan did a Chris this week."
Amazing.
So Palanquin was apparently my word that I couldn't quite pronounce.
And Lars says, "Where are we?" And Stephen says, "Homeworld."
Very dramatic.
I skipped over that fairly quickly again because basically the whole episode is this trial. I was kind of like, I felt a lot of things. My overwhelming thing when it ended was that for the first time, I'm really really annoyed that we do this because actually the wanted way of doing it is the best way to watch this. And I'm just like, I just want to watch the next episode. There was a trial. The judge, the lawyer made some good points. There, can we watch the next episode, please?
All right, that's everything for this week, guys. Take care.
But there is an element because of A, excitement, and B, like it really is that. Like I feel like this is a piece of a story.
Yeah, 100%. There is some stuff to unpack, though. I mean, in terms of doing what we usually do, which is like reviewing the quality of the episode, it is trickier to review the quality of a single episode like this. But there's certainly some stuff we can chat about from this episode.
Yeah, and my big one is at first I was slightly like, ooh. Not sure I'm enjoying this because I was just a bit like, really, a lawyer? Like we're doing lawyers. Like we're doing not a spoof, but we're doing like an overt lawyer character, which feels like a very Earth thing and a very not grand gem alien thing, and I was literally for the first couple of minutes like, oh no, what if I'm? It's like that brilliant scene at the very end of Fanboys, which is a movie all about Star Wars fans trying to get their friend who's ill to see The Phantom Menace before it comes out, and then it ends with them in the cinema watching it, and the credits go, and he just goes, "Hey, what if it's not any good?" What if we don't like it?
I think he literally says, "What if it sucks?"
Yeah, he's like, "What if it sucks?"
That's a great end
and
to
it
that
reminded
movie,
me
by
of
the way.
that. I was just like, "Oh shit, what if this isn't good? What if
What
I
if,
don't like
what if I
it?"
don't like this one? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was really like, "Oh bollocks!" Like, because I just kind of went, "Really? The show, this universe, this world isn't gonna do anything better than a spoofy lawyer character?" That does go away because then you get overtaken by the trial, and it really kicks in when the lawyer starts making all these really good points about the inconsistencies and brings up this whole, like, we've only just, I feel, gotten used to the idea that Rose shattered Pink Diamond, and now to have this twist of, well, is this what happened? Is there a conspiracy? When and to just open those floodgates and open a bigger mystery, what really happened? Floodgate. I think that's
huge.
Such
a
it's
massive wrench in the works of everyone who watching this show was convinced that Rose Quartz did it. That's the end of it. This episode intentionally raising questions, whether these questions are proven to be bollocks anyway, and it does turn out to have been Rose Quartz, irrelevant to the point of this is the first time in a while that idea has been challenged at all. It's been pretty much a known fact until now.
Yeah, and challenged so well. You kind of go, oh yeah, like, and I don't know if any of the fan community were asking those questions, but like, what about their gut?
Sections were. It was very much a split. It was, and I think we actually a little bit went through that when we got to the episode where Stephen first is told that. I sort of was giving you how I felt at the time, which was like, oh, maybe it wasn't like Rose, maybe it was something else, maybe Rose was covering up for someone else taking their heat, like we talked about a lot of that, and then and then I was like, and I gave you my honest opinion, which is 2 or 3 episodes later when it gets reaffirmed from the gems. I was like, well, okay, that's pretty much what happened then, because their understanding of the situation is the same and it matches up, and if the gems are saying the same thing as the Homeworld guys, then it looks pretty much like that happened, right? And that's what's so clever about this is, but in that gap, there was definitely 2 sects of Steven Universe fandom that were sort of going, people going, you need to accept that's what happened, and people going, but it's hard to believe Rose did this. And what's really funny is my biggest argument for defending Rose originally was actually brought up here, not as directly as the other stuff, but the sword. All eyewitnesses that apparently saw this event claim it was done with a sword. Bismuth very clearly said that sword will cut through a gem, taking away its physical form, but never destroying the gem. That's the exact, not the exact quote, but that's pretty much the word for word what Bismuth says. Never the gem. So Stephen, all this time, was assuming full well that it must have been the breaking point, the weapon introduced to him through Bismuth that was designed to shatter gems,
could do
right?
That. Yeah.
Because we know that Bismuth made Rose Quartz's sword specifically not to do that. So then you hear and that their version of events is that it was done with a sword, and Stephen knows full well the sword isn't capable of that. Again, you're hitting on inconsistencies, things that just aren't quite fitting, and whether there's just more to it, we don't know. Whether it was just Rose or whether there is some sort of diamond-based conspiracy. This episode is the one that goes, no, this is very far from settled. There is still a question mark over the events of the past. And what I really like about the way they did this was, so that you're not going for ages, give me the answers, give me the answers, give me the answers. They found a way to give Stephen the initial information about Rose and then embed it enough that we just bought it. Most people, I think, just bought it and believed it. Because they made the homeworld gems and the Earth sort of crystal gems sort of give the same version of events, or a version of it that tallied. They both believed Rose did it. You had no reason to question it once you get to that point. Really, you can, like I said, you can pull up the inconsistencies, and the people who did are obviously very, potentially onto something, because now the show is doing it too. But had they left this open back then, you'd be quite frustrated by now, because you'd be like, just fucking clear it up. What happened? Do you know what I mean? You can't continually tease that. So instead, they did the really cool thing of give us that information, let that information settle to the point where you bought it, and only question it this far down the line, when we're clearly starting to barrel towards more potential answers. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
but only
so clever.
Only question it as well with logic that I'm sure there's a subsection on the Reddit and people 100%. That went that deep, but I reckon most people watching it wouldn't have thought the cleverness of she has guards. Like, what about the sapphires? What about the pearl? Like. And you hear that and you go, fuck it, of course, that makes complete sense. Like, I love that it's an explanation or a question that when you hear it, you go, oh, fuck yeah.
Well, yeah.
But most people wouldn't have thought of that. 100%. Like, and fair play to the ones that did, but most of the audience wouldn't necessarily have thought of that.
Yeah, I would love to see, it's a shame that there weren't polls done at the time or anything, because I would be interested to see how many people felt there was still more questions raised about this, and how many people... it seems more 50-50 when you're... Well, it seems more 50-50 when you're on Reddit, because the people on Reddit are the really invested fans. The people debating it like we're doing. You know what I mean? The people really getting deep into it. And I feel like a higher percentage of that group will have been questioning it, because they're thinking about everything.
But that's Reddit, and that's why, in a shame, it's such a shame when you hear like the creators of Westworld say that they were annoyed that people worked stuff out in series 1 and they want to try and make it unworkoutable in series 2, and they even
apparently some of the season 2 twists were worked out from season 1, and they changed season 2 to make sure that in the writing.
Yeah, exactly. I just think it's best to, unless you have
stick to your plan.
It's best to stick to your plan and don't, because
they don't represent
Reddit.
Everyone.
Reddit do not make up the majority of your audience, no. and so, clearly Steven Universe here stuck to its plan, and by the end of the episode, especially that ending, them escaping into Homeworld, I was just like, well, this is fantastic, like this is brilliant, and I sort of forgave the slightly odd lawyer choice. I let go of that really easily. Literally was gutted. Literally finished, and I went, fucking hell, I don't want to fucking chat to Dan about this for half an hour. Like, I just want to watch the next episode.
I know. So now you understand. I think partly because. Do you understand why now I was so eager to not to give in and just watch them? I was like, because I keep in mind I'd seen stuck together.
That made it worse, though. I'm like, everyone else got to watch all this together. No one else fucking paused it for half an hour. No one else took 4 hours to watch a fucking thing. Are
you at a point now when, where you sort of think, like, I wish I'd gotten into this show outside of a podcast so I could just binge it all and find out what the fuck's going on?
I think it's going to be really interesting when we actually, on a side note to that, I was thinking the other day, when we catch up, I wonder if I'm going to like the Townley episodes less. I wonder if I'm going to be like, we've been waiting 6 months and we get a Ronaldo story. Fuck this show.
Yeah, can I actually say that someone said this on a comment on the videos the other day, and I thought it was, and you've just made their exact point, and I actually have made a note to bring it up. I didn't want to bring it up in the Wanted arc because I was like, we should really focus on the crazy stuff that's going on here. But I have made a note in a future episode to talk about it, so you've brought it up, we'll hit on it. Someone recently made exactly that point in our comments, which is like, it's not surprising we like the Towney episodes. The big reason people tend to revolt against them is when they haven't had content in 5 months, and what they get is, Curly Fries Man wants to be a crystal gem.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a really good point. That makes those episodes way more frustrating because context and it's easy for us watching them, 1 or 2 a week, a couple a week, being like, yeah, it's great because next week we'll get some mythology. Don't worry about it. But they're absolutely right, because I guess...
Yeah, it did cross my mind.
Yeah, because I think for everyone else that is a frustration. And it's funny because I never felt that way, even watching new episodes. You know,
I hope I won't. And then actually, like, no one.
But it does make it more justifiable.
People don't revolt against Ant-Man because it's not Avengers. Do you know what I mean? So
no, they just won't watch it because the first Ant-Man's box office sales were very low, so they'll just ignore it.
True. I think the second I liked Ant-Man, but
me too. It's a good movie. Thing. I mean, I still wish I'd seen Edgar Wright's version, but I think the Ant-Man movie we got was perfectly serviceable, quite fun.
Yeah. I don't think Marvel. Well, actually, no. Marvel has made bad movies. Cough. Thor: The Dark World. Cough. But anyway, did
I tell you that I visited one of the locations from Thor: The Dark World the other day, Chris? It's minutes from my house. I had no idea.
You did? Yeah, you did tell me that. I enjoyed that fact.
Yeah, Greenwich is like down the road from me, and like I went and I was like, "This is the thing where the thing showed up," and Nadia was like, "I don't remember that movie," and I pulled out my phone and I showed her the clip, and I was holding up my phone. So in the background, we could see the background of the shot. We stood in the exact place of the camera, and I showed it her. And we watched about 2 minutes of the movie, and she's looking around, seeing all the different things that are in the scene, and she goes, "I don't remember this movie." And I'm like, "I know." Yeah. She's like, "Is that Christopher Eccleston?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "He was in one of these movies." I'm like, "Yeah." "Why don't you remember?" "Oh yeah, it's shit." That's why you don't remember. It's forgettable,
it's so bad.
Tripe. Oh man. Anyway.
I wanna rewatch all the Marvel movies.
Yeah, but then you think about. Yeah, whenever I think about rewatching the Marvel movies, there are two stumbling blocks: Iron Man 2 and Thor 2. Fucking terrible.
Yeah, those two in particular. Especially with the Townie versus Ark stuff, especially when the Ark stuff is this good.
It's hard to, it is hard to sort of. I think that even though I disagree with those people, and we've talked many times about disagreeing with the people who don't like the Townies, or sometimes they're referred to as the Boardies, Chris, because they won't live on a boardwalk. A little bit of triv for me there.
Makes sense.
A little bit of fandom triv. I empathise with them more the more I hear things like that, because I go, yeah, that makes sense. I don't agree with you, but I totally know where you're coming from. Do you know what I mean? Like when the mythology episodes are this good, if imagine next week they just weren't on, they didn't continue the Stephen on Homeworld story, and we just got back home, Sadie's sad about Lars, and that's the story. It's her and
you know what?
That's or something.
That's a great point about why this arc is so good, because what you did there is, because I was kind of thinking that along with you as you were saying it, and I was like, well, you couldn't do a story at home at the moment because everyone's going to be affected by this. Like, how great is it to be to have a show, have danger, where everyone is affected, but not because the world's about to blow up, because of character stuff. Like, you couldn't do, in the way that people actually are a bit like, what the fuck is Ant-Man going to be like? Because given where Infinity War left us, even though people know it's set before it, or meant to be set before it, people are still like, God, that's going to be a shift in tone, isn't it? Like, how good that you're in a position where things are so messed up that you could only do a story about this situation. That's how big this situation is. But this situation is so big because of some really deep, thought out character arc stuff.
Yeah, because you
it's good TV.
Because the emotion of both how Stephen and Lars got into this situation is so tied up in their personal stories. Stephen is here because of the overwhelming guilt at a thing he was convinced his mother did. He's now getting this glimmer of, wait a minute, maybe I just don't know what happened. Maybe I should stop assuming that she did terrible things. Maybe she didn't. Like, he's now been given the same doubt that you've been given, having watched this episode. So Stephen's here because of this crippling guilt made him give himself in. Lars is there because crippling cowardice made him run away, and he got himself into this situation. Both characters ended up in this peril because of their character arcs. So, I mean, even their journey to this point was driven by character. Story driven by character is the best kind of story, and this is exactly what they're doing here. And this is as good writing wise as any full drama I'm watching at the moment, without question. There, like I've said this in my. So this is Steven. So this is no. So what did I call it? I called it. So you should be watching, or why you should be watching Steven Universe video. I said it in that. I said, like, there are 40-minute dramas that would kill to have this level of subtlety, complexity, character work. Like this is top level writing. It really is. So yeah.
Yeah, the things this show has done is just crazy.
Can I respond to your lawyer point actually as well? Because I haven't actually to talk about that yet. The lawyer thing didn't bother me as such for a very, very specific reason. If you had done some sort of weird homeworld version of a trial, you would have had to have spent too much time in this episode setting that up, rather than getting to the more valuable element of this story, which is sowing those doubts and getting Stephen and Lars out on the streets.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Because think about how much time they'd have had to spend explaining the trial system of a homeworld if they'd invented some weird version of a homeworld trial. It's not completely implausible to think that two societies would come up with a similar judicial system, because it does make sense to have the case for and against pled to a person who would decide.
Yeah, I think you raise a good point, and I did, like I said, I did forgive the episode quite quickly for that. It was just this kind of nervous 3 minutes where I was like, "Ooh," and you could have a lawyer figure without it being a direct take on a lawyer, which really I would argue these two are. Yeah, even down to the lawyers bickering with each other. That's true. That's a play on lawyers.
Well, I mean, they are known specifically as Zircon defense and Zircon prosecuting, so it's hard not to sort of see it as a very even those words, the defense and the prosecution, are very Earth, and considering they don't have a concept of dad, it's a bit. Yeah. It's a bit strange, Yeah,
well, but the way you fansplain it is you go, the gems were around for hundreds of years. Maybe gem culture influenced Earth, and we don't.
Yeah,
it's not.
There you go.
It's not that the lawyer concept comes from Earth. It's that it comes from Homeworld somehow. So that's the way round it. Like, there are ways round it. It's a very minor complaint.
And that's not even a real stretch, actually. That explanation sometimes when you fansplain, you're really stretching. You know what I mean? You're pushing logic to and you're going the long way around to make to sort of connect things, and it's sort of you can feel when someone's overexerting their explanation when they have. I find it a lot with like fan theories when they're having to jump through 1,000 hoops. I find the less hoops you have to jump through to make your fan theory fit, the more likely it is to be true. Because
like the theory that, like the theory that Jar Jar Binks was going to be a really dark, like powerful character in Star Wars.
Yeah, although that one had the nothing they said was that big of a stretch when I saw some of the videos of that. I was like, actually, that kind of fits, I suppose.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They don't jump through hoops. That's what I mean. Like, I think you watch that and you genuinely go, oh, this could be true.
Yeah, because you don't have to go that far to make it make sense.
No, exactly.
Whereas if someone was trying to convince you that Onion was secretly Pink Diamond, you'd be like, you'd be like, wait, what?
Have to go through some hoops.
You'd have so many questions, and the only way to explain them would be to go really round the houses and be like, yeah, but what if they thought like this and did this? So, and that kind of feeds into what's great about this episode is the defending Zircon does not have to go far to pull into question the story we've been had repeated to us, and that raises other questions. Why do the gems still think? Why do the crystal gems think that Rose did it? Did Rose tell them? Do they know that it's a lie? Don't they know? Like, is it a lie? Maybe it did happen that way, and there's just more that we don't know yet. Like, it's so many questions.
That was so weird, because you just changed the point. As far as I can see, you just changed the point you were making, and it still made sense. Because you changed what you were talking about, because you were talking about how fansplaining can go too far, and the point you appeared to be building to was, however, the idea that lawyers came from Gem Homeworld doesn't feel like much of a stretch, and halfway through it became I
felt like I'd made that point even if I hadn't rounded it, so then I moved on because it linked in. But
so you were like, I'm taking the same idea, but I'm going this way with it, guys. Like, that was cool.
There you go. But yeah, no, I think that's the other way it goes, because then you've got all these questions about like the gems we've got at home. Like, do they know? What do they know? Do they know nothing? Are they as misinformed as Stephen, or is it not misinformation? Is that what happened? At this point, you literally don't know, and that's kind of amazing.
And I just want to watch the next episode. So what's the triv, Dan?
What did you think about the way they used Lars in this episode? Because we talked a lot about Lars last week.
I want to watch the next episode. I don't care. Give me the triv. No. I thought the way they used Lars was great. I thought that you don't want to not see Lars. So to see him, there's a little bit like one of the things we talked about towards the end of Tuesday's episode or Wednesday's, whenever it is, was the idea
the last episode.
Yeah, the
Play
last
it
episode.
safe. We don't know what's happening with these releases.
We don't know the time difference of what that means. Certainly I don't understand the time difference of what that means for the days. But the Lars episode, we talked about the notion that they've just been separated. So how do you kind of resolve that and fit both worlds? Get some more Lars, but why separate them if they're going to be pulled back together? But I think the way they did it, as long as it makes sense in episode, it's fine. And what they did made complete sense in episode. It didn't feel like they were forcing Lars in. You want to see Lars. I didn't want to spend the whole time wondering what Lars was up to. So I was fine with that. I thought that was great.
Did you like them putting a bubble around his head to stop him from talking?
Yeah, it kind of resolved the how do you stop Lars from just randomly yelling all the time. And it was quite funny when he was like, who are these giant women?
That's one of my favourite lines from the whole episode. I've not got the exact phrasing in front of me, but he's like, I think he either says that or he says something like, did you see the giant women? Like, yeah, we caught them.
So no, I thought that was great. And again, the ending where they escape and you get these glimpses of Homeworld, and it's good TV, Dan. I want to watch the next episode. What's the trivia?
Oh, Jesus Christ, you are really pushing through. Okay, well, we're gonna have to discover the triv together this week, Chris, because I told you this before we started, but the listeners won't know. I didn't get a chance to, because Chris was so eager to get this out the fucking way. Apparently, we recorded pretty much straight after watching the episode. So now I've got to go through the trivia together with you, Chris.
Cool.
Are we excited?
Yeah.
This episode marks the first time we've seen a gem poofed by a diamond on screen. It's also the first time we've seen any combat abilities from a diamond. How did you feel? Actually, that's a wider question, but it's an interesting one. How did you feel like the diamonds were characterized in this episode?
Oh, great. I thought that the blue diamond was consistent, but I like the fact that whilst she was consistent with how she's been before, she wasn't as mopey and upset, apart from that brilliant bit where like her anguish and pain stretched across everyone. I really liked that. And I thought Yellow Diamond was pretty consistent as well. And I thought Yellow Diamond kicking ass. Is she kicking ass because she's angry? Is she hiding something? That was awesome. I was a bit like, haven't we discussed before, there's probably other diamonds, like beyond green, blue, and pink?
I mean, green?
Yeah, have we discussed green?
No?
Sorry, yellow, blue, and pink. Is there another? Did we discuss that? I'm sure we've discussed.
Yeah,
that.
we have. So there's basically,
Yeah.
well, if you look at the symbol of the diamonds, there's a diamond
Yeah, it's a
authority
green one, isn't
symbol. No, there is another one. There's a fourth one, but it's not green. It's white. So
okay, fine.
I think it's because we had a green zircon that you were sort of thinking of green.
Right. Okay.
Because obviously, we had a blue pearl with a blue diamond. We had a yellow pearl with a yellow diamond. And we had a green zircon.
And just got
it's
green
sort
zircon on its own.
And I think that can sort of create that impression. No, the white diamond has never been named. There's never been any indication in the show that she exists. Zero. They've literally not so much as uttered the words. But there is a Diamond Authority logo, and it is a pink diamond shape, a blue diamond shape, a yellow diamond shape, and a white diamond shape put together into a larger diamond shape.
Because when they were seen here, I was a bit like, oh, it's like the ones we've seen. I in the back of my mind, I was partly thinking, I'm surprised we haven't got another diamond. I couldn't remember.
It would be a good
green,
excuse
white, whatever,
to introduce a new diamond, wouldn't it? But there's only one
but
left.
Again, yeah, and like you say, it would take something away from it. I think then it would take away you'd have to then dedicate time to her. So
I've got to say,
I thought the diamonds were awesome in this.
Yeah, particularly blue. I think blue is way more interesting to me than yellow. Yellow feels very, very sort of just straightforward villain. Like she just doesn't care about any of it. It's all beneath her. She's bigger than it. She's better than it. She doesn't care. Like, blow it up, kill them all. Don't care. Get them out my face. Basically, is Yellow's approach. She's quite. I've been convinced by listeners that she was hurt, because I talked about how my theory had always been that she didn't really care about Pink. She had no emotion for the situation with Pink, and a lot of people have pointed out moments and little comments that sort of suggest maybe she did have some feelings for Pink, and was saddened by her death. And the more people sort of talk to me, I've come round to that way of thinking. I sort of happy to be proven wrong there. So I think that is, I do think she, cared for her. What I find though to be interesting is that she is kind of still portraying this sort of not heartless, but slightly less affected version of it. But and it's sort of like it's she's sort of her position is that it's gain, and it's like, I'm above this, and I'm sad, but we need to move on. Let's destroy everything related to it, and let's go forward. And that makes her a villain, absolutely, because she wants to destroy everything, including Stephen. Like, on 3 separate occasions in this episode, she's like, "Can we just end this trial and kill him?" Like, I don't care. Like, she literally says that, like, 3 times.
She's also doing that to try and, because in her head, that's what Blue Diamond needs to move on.
Well, yeah, and also potentially, if the Zircon suggestion was right and one of the diamonds was involved, it would be, of the two of those two, it would be Yellow, right? You wouldn't be Blue. Blue's devastated. So if there was some sort of conspiracy, as the Zircon hints, you'd certainly be looking at Yellow Diamond before you'd be looking at Blue. So you could also interpret her insistence that they rush this trial and get it over and done with and destroy everything as actually as more of a cover-up. Like, let's destroy it all before it reveals the truth. I'm not saying that is what's going on, but it could certainly look that way. And I will tell you right now that was my theory coming out of this episode. Coming out of this specific episode.
Certainly seems that way.
I felt very strongly that Yellow Diamond was responsible. I
feel, though, if that's not confirmed by the end of these 4 episodes, I'd be like wondering if maybe there is a more complex explanation. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah,
and then from the other side of it, though, so Yellow Diamond is quite straightforward. Blue, though, holy shit, what a great character! A far more complex and interesting character. She is clearly just living in a world of pain and wrath, and it is fascinating. She's confused. She wants answers. She wants an explanation, and she is losing it. And it's amazing to watch that fury bubble up and then settle and then re-bubble up. And like, it's this amazing mix of emotions that just make her a great character to watch, because she feels unpredictable. You don't know when she's going to be sad. You don't know when she's going to just turn around, destroy everyone, because that wouldn't surprise you either, because she's clearly furious, but she's battling with her own desire to know what the hell happened, because even she doesn't think the story makes sense. So much about this is blowing my mind in terms of the characterization of the diamonds. They're both such polar opposites of each other, but what I'm really pleased they haven't done is they haven't made Blue the sympathetic one. They haven't made Blue feel redeemable necessarily, because that's a risk you run. When you have her willing to hear out Stephen, or you have her feeling all these deep sort of sadness, for the loss of Pink Diamond, you could easily use that as a catalyst to making her a more empathetic, and maybe even put her on her a redemption arc of some sort, right? You could. But what I love about it is they're keeping all that complexity, but there's no way she's going to be any less villainous. Do you know what I mean? And she just, as a result of that like chaos of her, like that sort of unpredictability, she is way more threatening and scary than Yellow. Way more. Because I don't know what the fuck she's going to do next. And like, yeah, and the voice acting is wonderful as well. The actress that portrays this character does an incredible job. So yeah, I think they've characterized them brilliantly, and particularly this episode really pushes it.
That makes the end of the episode so grabbing, where it's just Yellow Diamond being like, "You're on our world now." Like, it's so tense and fascinating.
Yeah. Predictions? How do you think it's going to play out? What do you think? What do you think's ahead now? Are you really?
Oh, is that all the
Is the excitement of this? I honestly don't know what's next.
Is that on? Is that all the triv then? That sounds like a concluding question. Is there no triv?
No, I was going to quickly read the triv sneakily.
Oh, fuck that for you, didn't I?
A little bit.
Yeah, but that would have been weird. Just read the triv now out in the stop.
Yeah,
lying
we're not
to
going to say
people,
something
Dan.
spoilery in the triv. I don't know. Sometimes the triv talks about future episodes, and I filter that out ahead of the podcast. Let's have a look.
To answer your question, I got no prediction because I could, but partly because no one else had to predict anything. Again, it's my bitterness at us having to do a half an hour, 40-minute dissect after the episode. No one else had to make predictions because you know what, Dan? Everyone else had finished the arc by now.
All right, I have one question for you then.
Right, God.
They put a bubble around Lars's head, right?
Yeah.
Do you think if that Zircon had like done the sort of that gesture, the hand up gesture, would Lars's head have been sent home?
What?
So when they bubble a gem, and they do that sort of hand gesture where they flick their hand up.
Oh, I'm with you.
And the gem goes to where their home is. Do you think that Zircon had the power to just decapitate Lars at any point in this episode?
Oh, definitely. I reckon so, yeah. Which would have been quite scary. How bad would that have been if Steven had done it? So, like, the crystal gems are on Earth going, shit, what's going on? What's going on? And then they go in the room, and Lars's decapitated head is just in a bubble bouncing around with the other gems. They're like, fuck. Shit's going down.
It's true. Looking through the trivia, there's nothing you wouldn't have, that we haven't talked about or spotted. Okay, cool. So we talked about Eyeball returning for the first time since Bubbled. Actually, quickly, very, very quickly, I like that this episode's great because it's sort of, amongst all the other stuff we've praised it for doing, which was interesting, the Eyeball situation, it's sort of like, those guys got home, like, potentially. They've been rescued, they're now on Homeworld.
I like the conclusion to that story.
Well, because obviously we had Navy steal the ship recently, didn't we?
So I like the notion that Navy found them all
and took them home.
Went back and took them home. Yeah,
I like that too. It's mentioned here of obviously Stephen mentions the breaking point, which is the invention of bismuths. That was bismuth invented to shatter, but apparently that wasn't used according to Blue Diamond. I don't know where Blue Diamond's exactly got her testimony from, but Blue Diamond feels very strongly it was a sword. Obviously, the Palanquin came back. That's obviously a thing from. It seems the diamonds all have one of those. The Zircon's the prosecuting Zircon's address to the diamonds had plenty of positive adjectives before saying "my diamond," which is apparently also something Holly Blue Agate did when the diamonds appeared in That Will Be All. That's a bit of a thing. That's kind of funny. It's interesting because do you think Navy got all of the rubies back, or do you think just Eyeball?
No, I assume she picked up all of them and then they went home. And I like the notion that they went home and have already said this, because you kind of like, no one seems that, whilst they're a bit like, well, where's Rose Quartz? No one seems that surprised to have her. So I like the idea that they've gone back. And this kind of rumour of Rose Quartz is out there. It has sort of been circulating, and they're prepared for that because of that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So is that? I think that's everything, Chris. You're gagging to do it. You're eager to do it. I love your eagerness. I just wanted to make sure we covered everything. So I had to.
Of course.
I just dragging you back into the discussion.
I feel your anger, but isn't it nice that I resent doing this podcast for different reasons?
Yeah, this is podcast resent on the basis of you're annoyed that you don't get to watch it like everyone else did.
Yeah, that everyone else got to watch this.
But I honestly think if we'd have watched this as four and discussed them as four in a special of this podcast that was like 2 hours or whatever, I honestly don't think these episodes would have gotten all their juice. We'd have probably just focused on like the big.
Oh, moments. Absolutely, yeah. This was
this forces us to talk about the detail, which is I think one of the things that makes this podcast, Chris, slightly less worse than it could have been.
It's absolutely, like it's partly like false bitterness and stuff, but I am jealous of everyone that I think knowing it was an event as well makes me even more keen to do it, like knowing that they were like wanted event, like, and especially the beginning of this episode where Steven's like, whatever Homeworld has to throw at me, I'm ready. I was like, I bet that was the centerpiece of the trailer. Like,
Mate, what's amazing about that is you are 100% right.
Yeah.
That is exactly correct.
yeah. So, you know.
After we've watched these, I think maybe I'll dig out the wanted trailer and show it to you because that's so funny. You are 100% right.
Yeah, and like it must have seemed so cool and so exciting.
Oh,
so,
100%.
I'm absolutely jealous of everyone who got to watch it that way.
I think this might be you at your peak Steven Universe enthusiasm.
Possibly, yeah.
Makes me happy. Cool. So in that case, then we're gonna leave you to it, guys. So that's everything for this episode. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
We'll speak to you next time as we discuss Off Colours.